thanks for joining this session today on a Saturday afternoon. I'm Aravind and I have my coworker Aditya. We both work at a company called Calyptia, and I'll share more about what we do and what are our profiles, etc. But we're going to talk about Fluentbit and Open Telemetry in the context of observability. We're going to give you some information, and if you have a Docker desktop installed on your laptop, and you could simply use this like the script or the Docker Compose file that we give out to you today, and then see the metrics, traces, and logs directly in your environment using Grafana. So we want to keep it light and as open source as possible, so that you don't really sign up to a cloud or you don't need to do all of that. That's the thing. Okay. And yeah, let me share my screen and we could get started. Thank you for joining the session once again. I'm Aravind, and today we're going to talk about observability with Fluentbit and Open Telemetry. But before that, have you all registered for KCD? If not, it's a good chance to register KCD. It's a good community event. Even if there are folks coming out from all other places, like Gujarat, West Bengal, like Delhi, etc. So even if you are in Hyderabad or different place, it makes it worth. So next week we are having this. I'm one of the organizers as well. So please do join us. We are kind of nearly sold out for the event, and we have fantastic sponsors. We have so many fun activities and good speakers content. So yeah, please join. That being said, in this session, the agenda of the session or the workshop is we'll do a brief introduction to the observability, understanding the Open Telemetry ecosystem and what is it. I know someone just said that Open Telemetry is more about tracing, and in the other workshops as well, have seen they think Open Telemetry is like a backend. We'll talk more about that. And then Fluentbit, a lightweight log processor about Fluentbit, and then some hands-on labs. I don't think it should take more time, but if you have any questions, if you have more things, we will be able to help you out on the fly. So yeah, about us, I'm Aravind, and I'm the developer. I lead the developer relations for Calyptia. And I have my coworker Aditya Prajapathi. He was contributor to Open Telemetry. He did some Open Telemetry work. He's from India. He's living in Mumbai. And Aditya, I am doing all the talking, but then he will do most important bits in the workshop area. So yeah, Aditya, you want to say anything?
Not really. So I'm Aditya. I work with Calyptia in the open source region. So I've been with them for the past year. We've branched out to metrics, traces, open telemetry stuff, and exciting stuff ahead. So that's it from me for now. I'll see you guys again.
Yeah. So like I said, I know many people would ask me what is it, what the company does, or how are you into the Fluent ecosystem, etc. Calyptia is the company behind the open source projects Fluentd, Fluentbit, and or the Fluent stuff, right? And you could go check out the open source projects at github.com/fluent. It's a fully CNC of maintained, organized project. We are just the maintainers, and it's one of the very few projects which got graduated with Kubernetes and which are part of the Kubernetes ecosystem right from the beginning, 2015 or even before. And then Fluentbit and Fluentd are also Fluent is shipped by default with Kubernetes, and then you see Fluent container in the system's namespace most of the time. So that's there. And Calyptia, what does is we offer a Fluent LTS support version for a lot of customers, large scale folks who are deploying in millions. Fluentbit is deployed say billions of times across the world, because also Kubernetes is growing. We are growing in general. And then we also do a product called Calyptia Core. What it does is an observability data pipelines, wherein the data that we are shipping, it provides you visibility into the data, control the data, and helps you multiplex the data on both the sides, just like the Fluentbit, but then more of a management layer on top of it. The important bit that we want to stress out in the workshop, as well as the thing we have here, is we are totally vendor agnostic. there's no specific, especially with the Fluentbit thing that you're doing. It's vendor neutral, and just like Open Telemetry, I think you have a lot of flexibility to choose what you have, and Fluentbit is the agent that you could do that. If you are worried about security and other stuff, like, Fluentbit is the way to go. Yeah, integration focus, very much focused onto the Kubernetes ecosystem. Now, the most contentious or like debated part is observability monitoring are same or different? How is it different? And like, what special things that were observability adds? I'm a, like, there would be people and profiles like, I'm a sysadmin, and then I've been doing this monitoring for a while, and like, observability is not new, and I've been doing it for quite some time. So I think that's a catch here. Observability is like, helping you to understand what's happening from inside out. It's even if it's like a black box, you're trying to find out what's the state from a black box, and like, infer and make some choices. So I think that's more about it. I don't want to go deeper into like, observability and, the definitions, etc. But I want to just give you points so that you could also learn more about it. In a simplified version, there are three main components: logs, metric, traces. And if you have overlap of the logs, overlap of the metrics, and overlap of the traces, the intersection of that is your problem or the error rate and everything that you could figure out and look at it. So that's the most important part here. There are many ways you could put different sort of layers on top of observability. Like Grafana is one layer, the entire stack. Elasticsearch is one layer, Elk stack. And then you have Tick stack, which is not popular now. Telegraph in InfluxDB. I think there are a couple of other components I don't remember right now, but Tick stack is also popular. And I don't know if anyone knows or use Tick stack. You could also type it in the chat. Let's make it more, what do you call, interactive. I know it's afternoon, maybe we are drowsy and just had food. So just feel free and stop me in between if I'm going for long. If you have any questions, stop me in between. Just make it very informal and, discussion oriented. So please unmute yourself and stop me. Don't even ask, say like raise a hand. Just stop and we'll talk. We'll discuss more about it. So yeah, how is observability captured, right? How do you get observability? So obviously for logs, files on disks, nowadays I previously me and Aditya were discussing, we were talking about a volume on a Docker container. Like, it's not just the disk, right? Your disks are also virtual, and you use several computational layers on top of it, right? Different engines, and if like Kubernetes, then Docker, or like container engine, etc. And you have to also collect data from that. So you integrate at various points and you collect logs, and yeah, so you use various agents, be it Datadog agent, Grafana agent, some of these Elastic agent, which are vendor specific. But Fluentbit here is like more vendor neutral, which also ships logs. There are other tools like as well. Beats, which is another popular project, which also ships data. But then here, Fluentbit is very vendor neutral. It is open source fully under CNCF, and does all of these things pretty easy. You have like more than a lot of plugins. And then you have metrics, which is like pull based and push based type of metrics, where likes of Prometheus will do pull based metrics. Like you have endpoints that scrape polling, and then you could get the data. You could also expose the data. Again, you could also push the data from metrics plugins available and push it to a data store using Fluentbit. And then obviously traces the bigger part here. Here you have the likes of a lot of options here to choose from. Open Telemetry is the latest one. eBPF is also one latest one, wherein you could also collect the traces from the all sorts of areas. Any questions here? Have you been doing logs, metrics, traces, or have you been doing only logs?
How you differentiate traces with respect to log actually?
Okay. Oh, sorry. Can you come again?
How you differentiate traces and logs actually?
Okay. So see, logs are more of like okay, this has happened and I am putting it out here. Trace is more of like you're tracing a path. Say if there is a API and then you call that API. I mean, the user calls the API or another system is calling that API, and there's a lot of things that are happening inside your code, and that trace is what is we are capturing. So there, inside the trace, today we will see there are different spans and all of these different like terminologies. Even if you forget about it, it's just like a hierarchy that X code calls Y code calls Z, and if there is an error between passing of parameter or something, it's more detailed into the doc, into the code angle, but also gives you high level metadata, like how many times this API has been called, like metrics on the request side and packet side and all of that. Now, when you have that level of understanding, you would be also be able to see how much time that it has been spending on a certain code block or certain database request, right? You end of the day, you call a database, it is taking like 15 seconds to respond. So you would want to spend your time optimizing that 15 seconds and it will get better. So while logs, on the other hand, it's just like, I got an error, that's it. And it might print that error. Wherein if your developer doesn't write a log, just imagine most of the cases, whenever we come to observability or any of these tools, right? It is not like very common, and people might not have logs for that area, and that's how traces would help. But also traces are expensive. Two angles is like, one, it might generate a lot of traces that are like not useful, so you have to make sure that how much amount of sampling you want to do. And then also like debugging traces is a bit difficult, so and also make costly in your compute performance of your application. So you want the business to continue, so make sure that you do all of this very easily. A popular e-commerce app in India, and they enabled tracing, and they generated around 30 TB, or like quite bit of uh, data single day. And they were shocked at like how much of traces that they could generate, and end of the day, like it's not so useful. So all of the data is not so useful, so they want to optimize it, and they have done that. They brought it to some 30 GB or 15 GB or something like that. So just see how much you could like sample as well. I hope I answered your question, Krishna.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. So yeah, what is sampling and tracing? I'll come back to that. Um, yeah, thank you for asking that, Div. What does instrumentation mean? So see, instrumentation as a word, it is coming from different other like domains as well. So you have EIE, right? It's a branch in engineering where you call it electrical instrumentation or electronic instrumentation. So you take a sample or like a blood sample or something like that, you put it through a microscope and you instrument it using a machine. You scan that, you see what is going on, and you do statistical analysis on top of it, and you give out report to to the people that, okay, we have seen this in your blood, right? And that machine work, and putting that through the machine, and that arranging that machine and like doing that work is instrumentation. Now this apply the same analogy to your applications, wherein you have uh, your large infrastructure, and you use these agents or and the backends like eBPF or different backends, right? You use these backends, and then you kind of like you're instrumenting your code. You're seeing every line. Every time a request comes, somebody is looking at it, an agent is looking at it, and you're trying to pass it. You're not actually causing a lot of problem, like you're not gatekeeping anything, but then you just are like a viewer viewing everything and collecting some metadata about it, and then later somebody can go and generate reports and do all of that. So that's what actually instrumentation mean. You could think of instrumentation analysis are a lot of similar but not same. Analysis is just like any data can be analyzed. Instrumentation needs some work to be done on the client side, which is your app, and that's where we or like these agents come into play as well. So yes, another thing is like sampling. So as it, like I said, I spoke about statistics, right? So in statistics, not everything is looked at. You also sample the data. You pick out, say, I'll give you a very practical example. So India has like 1.4 billion people now. And if I want to make a specific rule on traffic, right? And I say, and fine people, right? Similarly, I'll do the same analogy again on the code, but just to understand, you have a lot of traffic and you want to analyze and make traffic fines, etc. Then you take how much people are earning in Bangalore, and then they find out like people are earning like 20 lakhs, etc. per annum, and then like you take a sample of you kind of like pick the sample from some people, and then you found out average salary is 20 lakhs, and let us put say 2,000 rupees as the fine for jumping the signal. Right now, you sampled and you did this thing. So this sampling, this whatever the sampling area I spoke about, is same thing that you do with the traces. You have a lot of traffic coming in, right? Requests, response, and a lot of stuff. You don't pick everything. You pick only one specific layer, but it dependent on time. How you want to do it? You want to pick every alternative request. You want to pick certain time, certain. You can do a lot of type of sampling. Popular ways are head-based sampling, tail-based sampling. Tail-based sampling is more efficient. You could do that. So sampling itself is like a very big, I mean, at least like it takes 10-15 minutes to explain detail. But on a high level, you're just sampling the data, right? Pick one sample from like the whole suite of requests that you're coming, and then you start making an observation and start making, unlike the previous example that I got, I mean, like even here, samplings can also give you wrong assumptions. So don't take in an outage, say, if there is something intermittent happening or something that is irrelevant, like maybe on a Friday evening, somebody redeployed in your code, and your app stops, and you sample that data, you think that there is an issue, and you start debugging. That's wrong, right? So all samplings are not this thing. So you need to think about it as well, from the point of what sampling to be done. Some research, there are some methods. You could go and take a detailed look at it. I know I have spent some time, but let us go ahead, and I'll also take more questions in the coming slides. So here we are, enter the dragon, right? Open telemetry is a very, very popular word right now, I guess. Started like just like few years back, 4 to 5 years maybe, and the project has gone like rocket speed. Everybody is using talking about it right now. If you haven't, I know some of you haven't heard about Open Telemetry, etc. Open Telemetry is nothing but it's like a standard. Just think about set of rules, a rule book. That's it. And that standard we are enforcing through a JSON rule, and everybody is implementing that standard. It's just like HTTP. You follow whenever you are writing the code and you're throwing an 200 error. So that means everything is okay. You run 404. So these are standards. What if I throw 501, right, or something else for just an error? I will not be able to, because I'm not following a standard, right? So similarly, these standards are for our better, because there's so many people in the observability area, like vendors. There is Splunk, Elastic, Grafana. I'm talking about big names, but there are so many people right now. I think we have a sponsor who's like Snappy Flow, who does logs, metrics, traces. We have like Scout APM, so many APMs, right? So many logs. And so to bring up a standard so that for people who are using these products, it makes it easy to consume. And tomorrow, if they want to switch, it's very easy to like move away. Okay, let's get deeper into the Open Telemetry as well. Open Telemetry as a project have existed in different forms previously. I don't know if you have heard of Stackdriver in Google Cloud. So Stackdriver is also like an ops thing. They have changed this name, I think Google Operations Console or something now. But Stackdriver is has a project. It's called Open Tracing and Open Census. There are two different projects, and those two together have become Open Telemetry. They have merged those two projects, those two initiatives, and Open Telemetry is born. And Open Telemetry is like a standard format for all the traces and everything, actually. So it's standardization of tooling at logs, one data set at metrics, at traces. So initially it started with tracing, because as it is more important, forget about usability, and but it's more important. But then metrics and everything else also have come in. Now all the backends that are there, like somebody is using Elk Stack here, somebody is using like LGTM. So all the backends here are becoming compatible to this standard. That's the most important thing. So I'll share this deck, so don't worry. These links are there where you could go and look at all of this. We have a detailed demo of Fluent Update observability here. I also share one more demo which is more focused on the Python and other side, like more like an app. Here, whatever we are trying to share today is like more basic so that it works on your laptop very easily. So we don't need to debug because we're online, right? I think if you have questions, we might not be able to do it. So that's the reason. So yeah, fairly recent, all of this. So any questions on Open Telemetry as well? I'll go deeper a bit, like about collectors, protocols, etc. But any other questions? Okay. If you have questions, please write in chat in between or stop me in between. Happy to answer. Okay, I think I clicked on the. Okay, so like I said, the overall component architecture looks like this. The OTel collector is the cornerstone, like this is a common thing that everybody needs to run, and from which the data is pushed over to different other backends, observability front ends or APIs or backends, whatever you call, right? And then OTLB is like Open Telemetry protocol. So people also call Open Telemetry as OTel. So OTL is like OTel. So just like a short name, like how else Elasticsearch Logstash Kibana is Elk, similar way this one. So you have different microservices. Imagine you have Java based, Java Go and Python based microservices with React as a front end, and you could use these OTel SDKs which are coming from OTel. Like all the yellow color ones are coming from OTel, like the project. So what people have done in the Open Telemetry ecosystem, the project itself, the open source project folks, what they have done is like using this OTel collector in the format, they have implemented some APIs and SDKs so that if people want to consume them in their project directly, they could also easily do it and ship out this data like in an Open Telemetry format. The only catch there is the backend that they are using should also be compatible to this particular standard. Say if they are using Elasticsearch should be able to take in this data and show it in Kibana in the right way. And tomorrow, if they want to correlate, that should be there. So, like I said, logs, metrics, traces, these three form together and become a common intersection point. That intersection point is what everybody is aiming, and OTel exactly helps to do that through the standard. Now, on top of it, like Kubernetes is compatible with Open Telemetry, they work with the project. There are various network level situation like L7 proxy, layer 7 areas as well. Then all the clouds. In fact, AWS have their own Open Telemetry distribution. I mean, we could still use the Open Telemetry that is popularly shared or there. But then all the cloud providers provide that. Again, if you are using multi-cloud or if you are using different types of clouds, imagine that getting the data, each cloud has their own method and proprietary. So you could really save a lot of time in having data in the common area. So even if you don't have the collector, the advantage here is if your backend is supporting the Open Telemetry protocol, you could directly ship it there, just like use this auto instrumenter or anything, and then use directly ship. I hope I made sense. Anything that you feel not clear here, I'm happy to take questions there. No questions? Nothing?
I just wanted to add a small thing. So
Sure.
like the collector, like you don't really need to use the collector. So OpenTelemetry lets you, so if you have a very small application, then you can directly configure the SDK to export it to the third party. But with using a collector, what you can do is you can collect the data in a single place and process them together. So in the collector, they'll let you do things like sample the traces or like add processors like batch processors, or there are dozen processors. So you can process the data and then send it forward. And in case you have a lot of data, then you can also deploy the collector along with your services and send it to a centralized collector, and then that is a server which is only running the collector but has more resources. So that's also another deployment type. So that's Arvind, you can go ahead.
Okay, I want to also quickly share how this collector would look like. As you want to also explain this one, Aditya, because
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So the collector is basically a component which OpenTelemetry has, which lets you, first of all, gather data from different sources, process it, and then export it to various backends of your choices. So it has the concept of pipelines. So you can have multiple pipelines, and each pipeline is associated with one data type. And the data type needs to be either like metrics, traces, or logs. So, and they also have two repositories for this. So there's a core collector and there's a contrib collector. So earlier they used to have just one repo in which they had all the components, but now they've split it up into two. So the core collector only has the core components like the OTLP, Jaeger, and Prometheus exporters, I think. And contrib has all the exporters and receivers that third-party vendors have created. So let's say sending data to, for example, Sumo Logic or Honeycomb. So those are all shipped into the contrib collector repo, and you need to build a custom distribution of the collector if you want to run those. But in the OpenTelemetry collector, you can, like I said, define pipelines in which you say that I want to receive data from this source. So let's say I'm listening to traces from like using the OTLP protocol, OTLP over HTTP, and I want to let's say use a batch processor to process the data. So you can process that using that, and you can forward it to any other backend. So that's basically it for the OTel collector.
Yeah, so guys, if you have any questions, please do ask, because I think I know maybe it's new for some of you, and also maybe you were not explaining the key bits that we think that maybe like and explaining some things as basic as it is. Please keep asking, and we are happy to help. I want to clear some things here, like the yellow lines that you see are the ones that are OpenTelemetry provides by default, or like it's quite easy. So they definitely have solutions for that. And the green line is one the vendor can implement, and vendors do implement that from there as well. Say, for example, if there is a Grafana or Elastic agent, which is like more vendors focused, and they implement OTLP. So they have this agent, right? They implement Open Telemetry protocol, and using that, they siphon out the data. And that's the green line. And they still send it to the same batch and attributes in the collector that Open Telemetry owns. And again, they give it to their backend, which is Open Telemetry protocol compatible. So that's how it works. Other area, they could also there are some, because Jaeger is a CNCF project, also does tracing, and they kind of ship the data to that as well. So because they work with the co-working projects, that's the thing. Similarly, for Prometheus, you could do that. You could also ship metrics to Prometheus through OTel. OTel is primarily started with the tracing, and metrics and logs are have come later. But now, because it is becoming more complete, I think it's more suitable for adoption. That's the thing. So, any questions? I hope that we are making sense and we are not doing more stuff. But then, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. So that's why, yeah, cool. I'll just go ahead if you are not having more questions. So we are crossing Open Telemetry area, and let's quickly do a brief on Fluentbit for more of you. Fluentbit is a very popular agent, telemetry agent. So you could imagine Fluentbit as one of those agents which is implementing the OTLP, right? And Fluentbit can be compared to those Elastic's, Grafana, Datadog agent. The catch here is this too is vendor neutral. So to have a more vendor neutral stack, your agent is vendor neutral, supported lot many add-ons. Then your Open Telemetry is like vendor neutral, and like it alleviates you from moving to different backends. All that you need to bring is a observability backend. I think you could still use OpenSearch and or all of these open source projects, even from Grafana like Loki to ship data. Prometheus is again open source, so you could use that and do that stuff. So here, like I said, Fluentbit open source project, Fluentbit.io is the site. It can do like shown in the image. It can multiplex the data. Say, for example, you are collecting logs from Kubernetes or metrics, traces, etc. from Kubernetes using Fluentbit. Fluentbit can as well ship it to Elastic or Splunk, but also can write to S3 for long-term storage. So in DevOps, what folks do is, do you have a question, Abhishek? Abhishek? Okay, maybe it's pause. So what happens in the observability is like you might want to store only say 3 months of data. You don't want to store all the data that all the time. So what you could do is like send all the data to S3 with the raw data and everything, and you could have a policy configured in your backend like Elasticsearch or something. Like there's some index lifecycle management policies. Say only keep the data for 3 months, after that purge it. So every day, the last 3 months before the 91st day data is like purged, and then you can maintain costs. And then while you could keep shipping the long-term cheaper storage. This is one use case that I mentioned. Like you could also do many other things, like if you want to mask some card numbers and all, there are input-output filter, and all of this is like open source and easy to use actually. So you could do routing, filtering, etc. Format is very good. Actually, Fluentbit is built for embedded Linux and IoT that focus, but then with containers as good as like lightweight, etc. So it's also the most used or most deployed project across the world, like for like more than, this is a bit old, like maybe now it reached 7 billion downloads. So it's like growing phenomenally. So when you think of like Fluentbit, I think the three pillars of observability covered. We have OTel support. We also have support to the eBPF area if you're looking at some backend, which is also like very robust, etc. And then it's a single agent which covers everything. No vendor lock-in. I think we discussed everything in this area. So I think we are at like nearly 40 minutes mark, and I would like to introduce that there are 3 labs in this workshop, and one is about collecting metrics, another is like collecting traces, and other is collecting logs to any observability of your choice. What we provide today is a GitHub repo. I'll share that shortly. It's easy, but I'll also explain the code so that you have great understanding. So the structure of the app is like this.
Excuse me, can you tell me that the difference is like still the Fluentbit, what it does actually means, is again that does it also do that log metrics and traces monitoring again, or that part, or how the difference between the Open Telemetry and Fluent actually?
Thank you for asking this question. So like I said, Open Telemetry is a standard. It doesn't have backend or anything. So Open Telemetry also is used by all of us to implement and then ship data. So it's like a standard, and we use the Open Telemetry to collect the metrics and send it to different backends. So Fluentbit is the agent, is the deliverer, is the message. That's why the bird. And Open Telemetry is the package, right? Open Telemetry based data is a package. So that's how you scrape the data, and then you push it out to all of this area. So it's on the site of OTel as well. Many people confuse that Open Telemetry is like a backend or some sort of solution. No, it's like a standard. It's a format that you use. They also have implementations for people to see how you could implement like say to give you an example of like how you could take an Open Telemetry and implement it in your project. They have such examples for SDKs, etc., but they are not the solution. They're just the deliverer, and they're compatible with all of these. I mean, they provide this thing, and other vendors are compatible to like each of this area. Fluentbit is one open source project from CNCF. They work with Open Telemetry. Open Telemetry is also a CNCF project, so we both work together to have these features set compatible. Now this entire pipeline is more or less like vendor neutral, right? You don't have you don't need to worry about like you are getting vendor locked into one specific solution of observability or something. It's always free to move. So the entire things that I showed in this slide is like open source, free to use, and you could also deploy it in your production. Krishna, I hope that answered, but if you still have questions, I'm happy to answer.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Any other questions at this point? Okay. If you have any questions, please stop. So here we have an app. It has a JavaScript app, and it contains metrics, traces, and like I said, the instrumentation, one single page. And then what we do is like we have a fake data collector, fake data generator inside this app. We are generating some data, and we're generating some specific metrics that Prometheus could scrape. We will collect it into the Prometheus and then show it in Grafana. Similarly, we have traces we'll collect and we'll show it in Jaeger. You could also use something like Tempo. Tempo is relatively new. It's been there, but then relatively new, not like so many other backends. Jaeger has been from CNCF and you could use it. And then we use Loki, which is also relatively new, but if you are using Elasticsearch, Splunk, which is like OpenSearch or open source or paid things, you could also use OpenSearch. It's like an open source version of Elasticsearch. So any of these backends you could use, but then what we are trying to show is like metrics, traces, and logs. Ideally, all residing in one single backend helps and helps you to correlate all of this. But then even if it's not in this demo, what we want to show is like, how do you use Fluentbit Open Telemetry to ship data to any of these platforms? So that's our goal. And let me quickly share the first one. We have this repo. I'll ping you in the chat.
This Jaeger means what? That is also same thing, similar actually. What is the difference actually? You repeating that?
Yeah, exactly. I'll share about it. We'll see it. In fact, you will on your laptop as well. So don't worry about it. Jaeger is also like a backend, but it does traces.
It's essentially just to visualize traces, just write the UI.
Okay.
At least we are using it for that.
Yeah. So what I say is like, please check out this branch and do git clone and check out this branch. What I will do is like I'll parallelly do this. Okay, I'll parallelly run this demo alongside with you folks so that there is no confusion. But do check out this repo. Aditya, I think it's up to you. Like you could take over and then I'll parallelly run the demo, but then you could share the screen and do the demo one by one. And then I'm happy to help if you have any questions.
Okay, so should I?
Yeah, you can share the screen. Yeah.
Disabled.
No, it should.
Okay, all right. Let's see. Okay. What I minimize this? Okay. Let's start with logs because that's the most simple case.
Can you explain the app once, first of all, and then we could go ahead and explain the branches and then each branch, and then we could go to Docker Compose and all of that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, so the app essentially is we've got a demo application which generates metrics and traces and sends it to Fluentbit. Fluentbit then forwards it to various other backends. So if you have a look at the Fluentbit config file, you can see that we are using the OpenTelemetry input plugin to listen to OTLP compatible data. So that's essentially like anything that the application is sending, the metrics or traces. And from there, we are forwarding the traces to Jaeger and also sending everything to the OpenTelemetry collector, where we will just log it in a file, just to show that we can forward data to the collector using Fluentbit. Then on the metric side of the thing, we are using the Prometheus scrape plugin to scrape metrics that are exposed by Jaeger, and we are also sending that to we are exposing that using the Prometheus exporter so that a Prometheus instance can scrape it. So if we look at the Prometheus config file, then like we saw in the Fluentbit config, we are exposing the metrics that we collected from Jaeger as well as the application. We're exposing it on port 2021. So in Prometheus's config, we are adding it as a target to scrape. Then, yeah, and for the logs part, we are using the dummy plugin to just generate the same message over and over, and we are sending it to Loki, and we will again see that in Grafana. We'll just add a data source there, and you can see it there. So I think this is good, right? And in the collector config, like we explained, so you have different sections in the collector that you can define. So there's the receivers, there's the exporters. We haven't defined any processors, but you can also have a section for that. And in the receivers, we have the OTLP protocol, and we are saying we'll be sending data using HTTP. You can also define, you can also use gRPC input for this, but currently we're just using HTTP. And once you define, and this is just one receiver, similarly, you can have like multiple receivers. And you can also do something like let's say like I want to have like I want to listen to OTLP events on 2 different ports. So you can also do something like let's say OTLP/2, which will be another similar receiver, but that you can add in any one of these pipelines. So essentially, you can have the same receiver multiple times with different ports or different configuration settings, and you can just add them to the receiver list here. And yeah, I think that should be it for the config. I hope people understand what the config file should look like. And the idea here is for traces, the receivers that I have defined will take the data, and the exporters will send it to the backend. So here we are just logging it to std out, but you could do it to a file, you could send it to Jaeger, Zipkin, whatever you want. So with that being said, I think we can start looking at the demo.
Yeah. Any questions, folks? I know that maybe you're seeing it for first time, especially the collector and the config. If you have any questions, please ask. Just like any other binary in the ops side where you are using that and you have a conf file, I think collector does has a YAML file, and you do this configuration. And to be honest, I really like the OTel collector configuration thing because it's so clear, so descriptive, and it covers all the important things and tells what the receiver is, what the exporter is. It's really easy. So just if you have questions on anything, the structure, the size, or you want a documentation resource, ask us and we will provide you as well where we are picking up, how we are doing this. But otherwise, yeah, we could go ahead if you don't. Yeah, please stop us in between. Yeah.
Just unmute and start speaking if you have questions.
Because
And
it's virtual, right? We keep asking all of this because we can't see you, the problem that you face, anything. So yeah, makes sense.
and it's like
What can you show that diagram and connect this one again a little bit there to the example what you showed now, one of the PPT actually. And is it possible actually to just connect actually to, because I am just seeing first time.
Yeah, makes sense.
you mean this one?
There is a sample your means your application you showed na, this JavaScript actually.
Just a minute. 1 second.
I think you're asking about instrumentation. Yeah, exactly. This one. Yeah.
Yeah. So did you want to look at the
You mentioned that somewhere that some instrumentation need to be done actually. So I didn't understood actually how you means have you added some extra code there actually? For example, we have an existing
no, we'll get
application.
to that. We'll get to that eventually.
Okay.
We haven't covered it yet.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's start with logs then.
Just one thing. I am little bit confused on what exactly this repo does. What we are going to do now.
This is just a demo application to show how OpenTelemetry works, how you can integrate it with Fluentbit, send data from one source to another, and set up like pipelines, stuff like that.
Yeah. So you could literally take this application or this method, just copy paste this file in your infrastructure and import those whatever Aditya is going to tell in the JS files. Or similar things exist for other languages as well. And you have a very open source vendor neutral observability data pipeline, and you could keep switching the backends, and backends also support this thing. So that's what we aim to do here. We're trying to explain this important part. We are not showing like, a Docker container, install this agent, and you see this data on a cloud platform, right? We are not doing that. We are trying to explain the difficult bit of configuration, that thing to you. And this repo, I think, Dave, is about like you have multiple branches. We branched it out 3 different data types, like metrics, logs, and traces. And when you do Docker Compose up in each one of them, you will see that particular data being up, etc. Or you could also run in the main Docker Compose up. You will see all 3 as well. Yeah.
Okay. And this repo, this branch, I think you checked out metrics branch.
Logs.
Logs. Okay. So this will be in the collector. This is the collector program, is it?
No. So I think Aravind already shared a link, right? It's this repo.
Okay, I want to know where this program will run in the flow chart which you showed.
Okay, I will also explain that as well. Can you go to the slides once? Yeah, the app architecture. Come down. No, not this one. Come down in our app. Still down. Yeah, this one. So here, I think many people are confusing about like, where is this agent? Or not even agent, the Open Telemetry collector. Where is this collector? The collector resides in the app.js, if you see, and through which we are sending out to Fluentbit, or like Fluentbit is also there in the same area. It's a different container, and the app is sending to Fluentbit. Fluentbit is again acting as an agent to collect data. Agent to siphon out and send out data to everybody out there. So Fluentbit is in between all of this. App.js contains the Open Telemetry collector. It's implemented. So in your
so the Git repository which we cloned represents this app.js JavaScript Open Telemetry, is it?
Yes, the Git repository you cloned contains this entire architecture. It not only contains the app.js Open Telemetry collector, but also contains the Docker Compose script for downloading Fluentbit, Prometheus, Grafana, and as well Loki. So all of that.
Okay.
So
Okay, fine.
in the main branch, you see this entire architecture. In the metrics branch, you see the app.js, Fluentbit, and Prometheus. In the traces branch, you see app.js, Fluentbit, Jaeger. That is not represented here. In the other branch, logs branch, you see app.js, Fluentbit, Loki. In the main branch, you see the entire picture. I hope that is clear, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Also, like the point of the repo is to show the interoperability of OpenTelemetry. So, like, let's say tomorrow, you were working with some project and it decided to, like, maybe shut down or is no longer being maintained. So, if you are using a application or agent that is OpenTelemetry compatible, you can just switch it out with another project. So let's say you are running Fluentbit today, and for some reason tomorrow you are not happy with it. Then you can just replace Fluentbit with the OpenTelemetry collector and call it a day.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, the connection I want to also give away information here is, Fluentbit is yet another agent, right? Just like Datadog, Elastic, and 1,000 other agents that are there. But Fluentbit is vendor neutral. Okay, let's keep that for a side. But if you're still unhappy with Fluentbit, you could also replace. I just said Open Telemetry collector. That might confuse you, but Open Telemetry has implementations as well. So you could also use that. So, but the thing here is we're already there and you already use it in one flavor or the other. I met some users today in the workshop as well. Some people were using it. So that's where why not use Open Telemetry and get more out of the existing thing. So that's 1.1. So in the entire pipeline, tomorrow, if you choose to move away from a specific observability vendor, you could do so. And you move from Datadog before it's expensive, and then you want to move to Signos, which is another open source project, right? And you could move it. And you don't need to do any changes on your infrastructure. Your backend only need to be configured, and that you will anyway removing it. You remove and you put another, and the port numbers, everything automatically matches, data matches, and dashboards and everything also is same. So you query the same approach. So that way, you are making it nobody is like locking you out so that you have to live with it, or you need to put more engineering hours or something to deliver it later point of time. That's the major goal in this workshop. And I think that's what you need to catch. And we are not, like I said, we are not doing like, ship out the data, send it to a cloud platform, right? Not exactly that way. I hope I made sense and you are understanding this thing.
So this Fluentbit is equivalent, similar to Datadog and Elastic, is it?
The biggest, yes, but the biggest catch here is Fluentbit is CNCF project like Prometheus, Kubernetes, and all.
Okay. And so Fluentbit is similar to Datadog, Elastic, and also Open Telemetry collector.
See, we are not a backend, we are an agent. You are comparing Elastic as a platform or agent. Elastic also has an agent. So you have Elastic agent, you have Datadog agent, you have Splunk forwarder. So all of these are agents, right? Fluentbit is something like a lightweight data processor or a data agent, a telemetry agent. So Fluentbit is that bit. It's an agent. It's a small executable that you could run it on your server, Linux server or Windows server, right? You run it and to like various types of data.
Can we not directly use Prometheus to scrap the metrics instead of through Fluent?
You always can do that. You always, the only catch here is while you are doing that, you're also putting some effort to kind of like directly interacting with your app. Tomorrow, something changes in your app, you need to change your Prometheus configuration and etc. Well, Fluentbit, you're already using logs. You're just adding some direct this thing to here. If you configure one Fluentbit configuration, and then you kind of like using it for logs, you can also use it for metrics. You can also use it for whatever the traces, etc. Now, imagine if you are having different pipelines like Fluentbit for logs or any other agent for logs, and then you use some other like Prometheus, which is an open source one, to directly scrape some you use node exporter or something and like scrape it from the using Prometheus. And you could also use Jaeger and use Jaeger SDK in your app, and so you're already doing 3 different things on your app. So why to have that complexity when you have more simple approach? Use OTLP, just ship the data. You have so much modularity. You could throw away anything except your app, of course, and then you could put any pieces, and bingo, like you have a vendor neutral data pipeline altogether.
Okay, so I have Splunk Forward as a sidecar container in my ecosystem. So can I use that as a agent instead of Fluent to scrap the data?
Yes, the only catch there is Splunk forwarder compatible to OTLP? You just check that.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
And another thing that I wanted to add is the main reason why like people use Fluentbit is because they don't want to have like 10 different services running on along with the service, like along with the server where they have deployed the microservices. So like let's say you said that you're using the Splunk exporter. So Fluentbit has a Splunk exporter built into itself. So you
Yeah.
can just use Fluentbit to send data to Splunk as well as OpenTelemetry and Prometheus. Also, like Fluentbit has a very small binary size, and so for example, like Fluentbit is 15 MB, and Prometheus itself is like I think 114 MB. So like if you are in an environment where resource constraints are a thing, then
Yeah, I do have like I mean I'm running Splunk Forwarder as a sidecar container for all the pods that I have. So I do have resource crunch every time.
Yeah.
yeah. So that's my point. Like you have to deploy like 10 different things, whereas you could just be using like a small binary which can do all of that.
Yeah. So the key catch here, folks, is vendor neutrality. Why we are stressing on this is like why you can have Splunk forwarder. They could implement OTLP, and they would say that we are also vendor neutral. The only thing is like you're using something a binary from coming from the Splunk, and if something changes or anything, again you need to replace it. Here, this pipeline is completely open source and it's coming from a foundation, not from a vendor like Calyptia, right? Even though we are the maintainers, we run this, but it's an open source project from CNCF Foundation. So what happens for you uh, is you can build trust, you can freely play. So tomorrow you could also move away or do something different. So that's the only catch here.
Yeah. So, does anyone have any other questions?
Yeah, please feel free to ask as many questions. We get excited to hear more questions and answer more stuff. So yeah.
So this Fluentbit is just an exporter. It does not store any data, is it?
No, it doesn't store in that. It's just an agent.
Okay.
So we are not an observability backend. I mean, we in the sense the Fluentbit is not an observability backend. Same case, OpenTelemetry is also not an observability backend. What is an observability backend is like the Grafana. Grafana is, in fact, actually the Grafana itself is like a visualizer. There is Loki is the backend for Grafana. Grafana is the front end, right?
Yeah.
You have Loki, Tempo, Mimir. All of these are logs, metrics, traces equivalents for Grafana. Similarly, you have Elasticsearch for traces, logs, and metrics, right? You have Prometheus for metrics. You have Splunk for logs, right? You have so many of these. So yeah. Yeah, Aditya, I think, yeah, take away.
Okay, everything is running fine, I think. So let's have a look at the config. So this is just log specific.
You can give it a command also, or you later you will share the command.
You just need to do a Docker compose up.
Okay.
Yeah, you just check like main, or if you want to just like do a specific branch, just check it out, check out the branch name and do a Docker Compose up.
Yeah. So in the latest versions of Docker, if you're using Docker Desktop, it's not Docker-compose, it's Docker space compose up. And when you want to bring down this environment, you could say Docker compose down. We'll see if you could publish the same for Podman, which is also equivalent for Docker Desktop as an engine on your laptop. So we'll see about it as well. Yeah, in the repo. So please start the repo if you want, and then maybe later you can come back.
Okay, then let's go. This is not needed. That was unnecessary. So anyways, like in services, so Docker Compose, just to make sure that everyone is on the same page, you can define services and each of these will run as a separate container. So we are running Fluentbit, we are running Grafana, Loki, and the collector. Collector, we won't do anything with the collector. I just wanted to include the collector just to prove that, like, hey, we can send data to it and it works. So in the collector, we are just receiving the data and logging it to standard out. But on the log side, we generate logs using a dummy plugin in Fluentbit and forward it to Loki, which is then visualized in Grafana. So let's have a look at the Fluentbit config file. So this is the plugin that I said. So this essentially just creates this message over and over again and forwards it to Loki, which is running on port 3100. And now I think we can go to Grafana. And in Grafana, you'll have to add a data source. I kind of forgot how to do that. Arvind, do you remember how you do that? Yeah.
Yeah.
In connections, you just
Search for it.
yeah. So like you connect data and then you can search for it and add it. So let's say Loki and create a Loki data source. So you can do that. I've already done it. So you just mention the URL and then save and test, and that's it. And after you do that, you can go to the dashboard. You can create a new dashboard. Let's say add visualization.
I think it's you're moving quickly.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Let me take a step back then. So I think everyone understood this part. Like we are just creating the dummy message and sending it to Loki, which is running on port 3100. When we go to Grafana, we log in using the admin credentials and go to the connections and add a data source. And to because we want to display the Loki logs in Grafana, so we need to add a data source to Grafana, or else it won't know where your data is. So for connecting data, you search for Loki, you select the plugin, and you do create data source. And in this, you can add the name of the data source so that you can understand where it's coming from. Then you can configure things like the URL, cookies, auth, headers, and whatever. Like basically, you can do a lot of stuff here. But to make it work, all you need to do is add the host and port that we configured in Fluentbit. So in Fluentbit, we considered host as Loki and port as 3100. So we just add the URL, Loki URL, and you can do just save and test. And it shows that the data source is connected and labels are wrong. Then once you have added the data source, you can now go to the dashboards and create a new dashboard. And in a dashboard, you obviously add a new panel to display the data. Now in data sources, I will select Loki, and since I did it like twice, it shows like two different data sources, but both of them have the same data because the configured URL is same. So I select the data source. I can do like more fancy stuff here, like how the interval in which you want to poll it and stuff like that. But I'm gonna leave it as it is for now. And then we can just select the label. So for people who are not aware of this, Loki needs you to have labels for every data source. So we have told Fluentbit to add a label of job as Fluentbit. So we will select that and run the query and switch to a table. So this essentially shows us all the logs that we have sent from Fluentbit to Loki. This is the same thing over and over again because we are sending the same thing over and over again. But if you are sending like if you have different data sources sending logs to Loki, then everything will be showed here in a unified panel. Then you can just save it, and let's say we call it Loki logs. And we now have a new dashboard. And in this, you can add like panels for like metrics, traces, whatever you want to do. Like you can configure it. But this is essentially how you would configure Fluentbit with Loki. Does anyone have any questions, or like did you not follow?
Yeah. If you have any questions, feel free to ask now. As well, just check out and try this flow by yourself so that we are happy to help right at the moment.
Yeah.
Anyone trying the workshop, or like you are just looking at it? Yeah, Dev.
Yeah, going to try. Just now was listening.
Okay.
Till now was listening.
Yeah,
Like,
please let us know.
if people want to try it out, like Arvind, should we give them some time to try it out?
Yeah, definitely. Like, we'll give you some time. We don't want to rush out and do anything. Just give some time so that you could also figure out, see the files and understand and do that. Yeah. We'll like, please let us know. We'll give like 5 minutes or so, and then you could clone the code. I guess you would have, but if not, clone the code and then switch to metrics and switch to logs, and then fire up Docker Compose up. The good part is like we want to make sure that as less as problem, because I've seen in the workshops, if I make it very easy, like download this and run it, I guess it'll be different for each person. Docker is like easy for you, so that's why we made it Docker friendly.
Yeah.
I have running the Docker Compose app. It's running some long time. Actually, it will take some time. Generally, how it is?
Yeah. So it will first pull the images, which might take a lot of time.
Okay.
Yeah, is it saying pulling FS layer or something like that?
No. It is showing some code actually. I am not able to understand. Can I share actually just quickly?
Yeah, you can share, Krishna.
Okay. Or am I doing something wrong?
No problem. So likewise, we are happy to help. So if you have any questions, please put it in the chat, and we could
check. This is the expected one, or is it a...
What is that?
Yeah. This is it. So like Docker Compose, if you don't want it to spam the console, you can pass like -d at the very end.
Okay.
But that's fine. I think
Fine.
we could go to the Grafana and
Yeah, you can go to Grafana. It does not make a difference, but yeah,
Oh.
if you don't like it spamming the console, then you can do that.
Okay. Oh, you mean that then now the Grafana will be up already? I can.
yeah. It's
Okay.
already up.
Okay. Fine. Okay. I will just stop the share. No problem. Thanks.
Sure.
So you're telling the local host to 3000 is the Grafana port actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
In which branch do we need to work now?
We are doing logs, and you could check out logs, git checkout logs.
Yeah, but like it will work on main as well.
Yeah.
So it's up to you.
Feel free. Yeah, feel
I
free.
think I have done on the main, looks like.
It's fine.
It's fine. It works. So like we just wanted to branch it out because like it removes the unnecessary configs, so it's a bit easier to follow for people.
I'm getting one error. I have posted it in chat.
Yeah.
Logs.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry.
Main it is not checked in.
Yeah, that might be my bad.
It's in logs branch.
Yeah. In services, in the Docker Compose file, and services depends on, you just need to remove the Jaeger line.
Can you show that, Aditya? It's easy.
Okay, sorry, I am not sharing my screen. I forgot that.
Yeah, no, Krishna did share. That's the thing.
Sorry. Yeah, this part. Like there should be a section here as Docker Compose, services, Fluentbit, and like Prometheus and Collector, there should be Jaeger condition service started. So you just remove those two lines and you should be good.
Okay.
Like, yeah.
And just do Docker Compose up again, or build or something like that. Will recommit.
Now I'm getting Prometheus undefined.
Maybe it's logs, right? Logs branch.
Yeah, logs branch.
I'm not really sure. Okay, just check out main and you should be fine.
Yeah, maybe. See, the reason is we are branching, we're continuously upgrading, and that's where I think some things, while working on the workshop, we're continuously changing here and there and things. So that's the reason maybe some of this is not updated, but we'll make it updated. But you just uh, check out main and do this. Meanwhile, I think Aditya, can you run that one and see what is wrong? Maybe run this branch Docker Compose.
I don't know. So thing is like I was running it on my local thing now, so I already had the Prometheus containers.
Okay.
So I missed removing this, I think. So
Hmm.
like logs Prometheus was not needed. So like even this is not needed.
Correct.
So
For logs, only Loki is good enough.
I overlooked a couple things because it did not give me an error because I already had those.
Correct.
Yeah. But for most people, sorry.
Yeah.
Go.
No. I was saying to div, right? It's like this Docker Compose is not flushed out because we ran main and we were branching out. For Docker Compose, you don't need all of this. For logs, you only need Loki and Grafana and Fluentbit, right? Maybe Collector, right? So for metrics, you need Prometheus, like I said, the pipeline, right? Whatever we were telling. In main, you have everything. So you better check out main if you are like fully understood. If you want to understand one by one, you could go and do this. So that's how it is. Yeah.
Okay, I'm working in main now.
Sure. Any other questions? Abhishek, Pechush, anyone, like you are listening, I know. But if you have any questions, are you trying the workshop? Please let us know. Even if you could try the main, I think it's fine. We will show you more stuff, but then let us know.
Lot of background noise. Maybe.
So I have created that Loki data source and given that HTTP Loki colon 3100. I saved it. After that, what do we have to do?
Yeah,
You can just, go to the dashboard and create a new
you could show that one.
Okay, okay.
dashboard. So like go to dashboards
Okay,
and new dashboard.
okay.
Add visualization. Data source Loki.
Sorry, was it a question? Sorry, missed it.
No, it was just me talking.
Okay.
So there no data is coming now. Is it due to the Docker compose of still is running actually? Mostly that might be the reason.
Yeah.
Did you select label and
Yeah. I selected the label as a job equal to Fluentbit.
then you need to do run queries
Run query.
and switch to
Run
table.
query, where is actually I am not finding. It's just to save and apply there.
You could see Aditya is
Oh, okay. So okay, this side, okay. Okay, nothing is coming.
don't you see switch to table or something like that?
The panel is showing empty actually.
Okay. Maybe it is not yet up or something.
Okay.
You could see in a separate terminal, you could see Docker PS -a, like maybe Ajay, you can show that as well. Yeah. Yeah, -a is like all containers, whatever is there. So yeah, it will be shown in a separate terminal you could do.
Yeah. So like the status should not be exited.
Yeah.
Means only one container is in the exited state. Fluentbit observability demo app actually. Others are running actually at this moment.
Are you in the main branch itself?
Yeah. This is.
Okay. Maybe Ajay, you could also check out because maybe it's there. Yeah, you can stash it as well.
I'm on the branch, right?
Div, any questions, please ask.
Yeah, my application is still building.
Okay. And as well, Harshit, how you are finding it? Any questions you have?
No, I'm just working on it.
Okay.
I haven't tried it.
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Don't know, feeling for him.
Oh, it's running for you, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe see also the sometimes very rare if your disk is full and for whatever reasons has less memory. It's not the case. We are not running some GBs of downloading some GBs of containers, right? Smaller container only. So it should be simple.
Yeah, but the still application is running. Actually, it's not completed. Actually, the Docker compose. I'm not sure that maybe or
No, application is not building. Maybe it continues to run. You might see some, yeah, you might see some rolling logs. That's possible. That's where like in Docker compose up -d. If you do that, I think you will not see all of that running stream of logs on your terminal.
Okay.
But then that's fine. I think we are seeing Docker ps-a exited means like something is obviously wrong.
Okay. Okay. So at this moment, yeah, one container is not coming up.
What is the Grafana username password?
Admin.
So I'll take that question, Kunal, about how can such Grafana dashboards be beneficial in real-time use cases. The table definitely not, but if you are seeing visualizations, which will show in the metrics use case, if you are using metrics and if you're plotting it on a graph, etc., it will be very useful for you to monitor that, whether it's going up, going down, and there are gaps in between the data, like, if something is not visible and you want to fire using the visualizations, you want to set some conditions like, if the requests are coming down or the requests are going up and I want to do this, requests are coming down, I want to get my team alerted that app is shutting down, right? So all of these are very good use cases to take a look at from a visualization standpoint. That's why people want to have it. Yeah. I hope I answered, but then if you have more questions, happy to go in detail as well.
For me, it shows unable to fetch labels from Loki during data source connection while creating data source.
Yeah, maybe Loki is not up. Can you check you check the Docker ps-a, see if Loki is not up or not.
Yeah, it is up. I can see it is up. I
Okay.
can share my screen.
Yeah, you can share the screen. If we could do curl localhost 3100, I think you should see some response. Let me also do this. Okay, it is done. Div, are you sharing the screen?
Okay, just give me a minute.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just doing the same thing like you folks are. So let us see if I face the same thing. Maybe as a workshop instructor, you never face problems, and all the students face problems. So it's unfortunate, but then that's how it is.
Recording in progress.
So one more thing we want to say, like we will definitely record and share this entire workshop. So don't worry about it if you are recording. Yeah.
No, I think you joined from a new laptop, right? So it gives you the
Okay.
Here I have Loki running.
Yeah, just do a call.
And
like, what's the error you are getting, first of all?
here is the error. I have connected. I have added this.
You need to do Loki colon
LOK host name.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just Loki is it?
Yeah.
Or remove this one.
No.
No.
Keep the put. Yeah.
Yeah.
Save and test.
Yeah, now it's working. Yeah. So next is creating dashboards. Right?
Correct.
Just create a new dashboard. Nation. Select value.
Fluentbit is it?
Yeah, it will show it in the dropdown.
But okay, it will automatically show up.
Yeah,
right?
it will show.
Yeah.
Because we are shipping these labels, right? These labels
Yeah.
are being shipped along with every log line. Run query, we will also go a bit deeper into the switch table. Yeah. Now, if you open one of the line, right? Any line you want to open.
How do I open it?
Yeah, I think you can go to the, it's just like Excel file. You can go to the any other thing, right? This entire labels and job colon Fluentbit is coming from the Fluentbit agent. It's like a metadata that you could add. So, for example, if you are shipping it from a bunch of servers which are pool that is specifically for, say, front end, right? And then you say app colon front end, and then for other app colon backend, you say app colon database. You could do that, and that will show up. So if you want to only see the database logs tomorrow, like you say app colon database, and then it will only filter that. That's the catch here.
So now we can save this panel, is it? So okay.
Yeah.
So we did logs only till now. I think it's nearly 4:30. So what we'll do is, like, we will just go ahead with the full demo, like, metrics and traces, so that I want you to also see traces before you get bored. So anyway, we'll show both of them in one go, and then people will try.
Yeah, definitely. Should I go ahead then?
Yeah. Krishna, I think we will come back to your question, and then we will answer each one of them. So don't worry.
Yeah, actually, just to add, means I just checked again. It's showing the metrics, but that container is in exited state. Is it accept? Is it fine actually, or how it is?
I don't know why it should show.
I created the panel now. It is coming the data actually now.
Maybe old one it is showing. It is not showing the.
Oh, okay.
Possible. Just thinking. So.
But if I do last 5 minutes also, it's refreshing. If you okay, fine. Actually, go ahead.
No. Let us do it once you can share the screen. After
Yeah. You want me to share now or later? You want me?
No, once we do the next demo.
Sure.
Yeah. Let's go ahead, Aditya.
Just a quick question. So Loki is persisting these logs, is it sent by Fluentd? What kind of persistent storage does it use, or is it using any database?
Loki itself is a log engine. So Loki stores this data into the disk. It also has an option to store in a long-term storage, like object storage, like S3, Minio, or like ACS, Google Cloud Storage, anything you like. Those things are there, but Loki itself can also show on your disk, the disk that is attached to your Docker container. That means your laptop disk right now. You could also do it for server disk. Most people use the S3 and then they want to do it like, that way.
In case of deploying these Loki Grafana in Kubernetes, it should be deployed into something like S3, right? Or
no.
It should be stored in something like S3.
If you want to do the long-term storage, you can. That everybody does, not just you. Like, it's not like a mandatory thing. But then if you want to just try out for the POC and see how it works, like you could deploy your Loki and then it will store on the data there and there. That's it.
Okay.
But long-term storage in something like S3 is recommended because it is cheaper.
Right. So if it is storing in S3, then Grafana, when Grafana requests for data, it has to fetch from S3 and show.
It doesn't exactly work like that. Loki will do some sort of hot cache. It has some amount of data that is there, metadata and everything it can answer. But if you are asking very specific questions, it will do. There will be some cost. I am not an expert on Loki, but I have good idea on Elasticsearch. I could give you your answer like in a minute. Just give me a moment. I'm searching Loki and S3 and this exact area. It doesn't need to have S3, by the way. I mean, just want to say this one specifically.
Okay.
You could also use different types of chunk stores and all, but all of that is deprecated. Yeah, you could use object storage types and and then build on it. The Minayo is a very popular, and then you have Ceph, you have so many other object storage things, and it's easy.
Okay.
Yeah, Aditya, go ahead. Yeah.
Aravind, while you do that, I'll start with the traces on metrics. Okay. So
Yeah, please go ahead.
I'll first show what we are doing in the applications, and then we'll go to the rest of the UI and stuff, because that's relatively simple. And I think a lot of people had doubts regarding like how do you instrument the applications, or like what OpenTelemetry does exactly, and like where does it come into the picture. So like I said before, we have these two applications, sample applications, which we are using to like instrument our applications and generate metrics and traces. So for traces, we have this app called tracing.js. And in this, we just import the libraries that we require and configure a few basic things like the URL and stuff. So for traces, OpenTelemetry has a SDK which you need to import, and it allows you to access these things called a trace exporter. Now you can have multiple trace exporters, and based on the backend that you want to send it to. So this trace exporter that I have defined is an OTLP proto trace exporter, which essentially means that this will export traces to a backend which is OTLP compatible, and I am serializing the data using protobuf instead of HTTP. So there's a library for doing this. If you wanted to use HTTP, there's another library which is exporter trace OTLP HTTP. So that encodes the payload using that sends it over HTTP instead of proto. Then you initialize the exporter and you get access to a thing called a tracer provider. A tracer provider lets you create spans essentially. So think of a trace as a trace across a system, while a span is just a specific unit in the trace. Arun, like, do you have any better way to explain that?
No, I think you're right. In fact, every APM tool. So I don't know if some of you know, well, we keep telling traces. It's also in another name called application performance monitoring or management. The traces is like how you're managing the performance, or how you're monitoring the performance. I guess you do a couple of ways, wherein with each language it is different. With JS, you import these modules and write some code, and you do this, and you add this area. With Java, you might overload if you are into Java, and like you have JVM options file, and then you add that library as an Java agent. So each area it is different. Now this is one method to do, which Aditya is suggesting. Now don't think that you need to learn all of this, like the code part or something. Maybe if you're coming from ops, and if you are more have admin background, etc., all these are given by Open Telemetry as well. So copy paste this thing. These are like copy paste. This is how you. But what you need to do is like sampling it, like how much sample you need to create. Those are the things that you need to do. But this is to ensure that you do it once. You don't do it regularly. This is only one time that you do. All the other things are continuously. And as well, this is one time for ever as well, because like tomorrow if you change the vendor, you are not going to come and change the code. That's the beauty. That's why I was saying, like, for every other vendor you need to come and change the code, because their classes differ, their code differs, their libraries differ. Here nothing of that sort. Yeah, so I hope I made sense. Anything else hey, you want to ask folks? I think please, because this is one of the important thing that you asked previously. Dev, Krishna, anything? Okay, let's go ahead.
Yeah. So like OpenTelemetry lets you create a trace provider, which in turn allows you to access, like, create spans, access tracer, etc. And you can have multiple providers, and each provider can be configured differently. So like you can add a different kind of span like processor on it. For example, here we are just doing simple span processor. Like we are just registering it a simple span processor to it, but you could also do like batch processors or any other like processor that they have available. And here we are just using the console span exporter, which essentially logs it to std out. So that's it. And obviously, like we need to export it to the backend. Like we want to send the traces to Fluentbit, so we also add the span processor and tell it that like I want to register the exporter that I created with this provider. So any trace that you create with this provider will print it to the console and send it to Fluentbit. So if you wanted like some traces should be like consoled, logged, and some traces should be shipped to Fluentbit, then you would create two providers, and on one provider you would register just the exporter that sent it to Fluentbit, and on the other provider you would register the console span exporter. And the traces that you want to send to Fluentbit, you would start using the provider, relevant provider, essentially. So yeah, that's it. And once you do that, you can register the provider so that you can get the tracer. And once you do that, we've got this function which creates spans. What it does is every 5 seconds, it will run this function which creates a span and goes through 1 through 10 and adds and creates multiple child spans of it. And if we have a look at that function here, so parent span is like we are starting the main span here, and we are passing that to the function. And in the child span, you can now like you first need to tell it that I am starting a child span, so I want to set it as the current active span, which is registered to the parent span. So this span is a child span of the parent span. And if you wanted to, so this is just creating a hierarchy. So if you like, it's a parent child. If you wanted to create a subspan of this span, you would you would call the same function and say and pass the parent as this particular span. And then you basically start the child span and do some random work and add like attributes and events to it. And then you can end the span and return. So that's all it does. Like it creates a parent span and it creates like 10 children span from it. And sends it to Fluentbit and the control. So if we have a look at the UI, I can go to localhost 16686, which is Jaeger UI is like default port, and select like basic service and find traces. So these are all the traces that it has created and sent. Like I said, it generates a trace every 5 seconds. 5 seconds. So this is an example of that trace. And like I said, each parent span has like 10 child spans which are registered with it. And the time that it is showing here is because it's coming from this. So like we are mocking random work. So basically this function takes time to run. The for loop takes time to run. So that's the amount of time each child span took to essentially run. Now, this might not make a lot of sense since you are like just creating mock data, but in real world, if you wanted to think like where I could use this, so think of it as the main span is your front end. Like when the front end gets a request, you start a main span, and the front end sends a request to the backend. So and like so when the backend starts the processing of the request, it creates a child span, and let's say the function backend calls a database, so that is another child span. So essentially you get the amount of time each individual service is taking to return the data, process and return data. So in case tomorrow I had a issue in which the web page is taking a long time to reload, then you can go check the traces and see which particular area is taking the most time to run. And then you can go and check the metrics for that, like relevant metrics or the relevant logs, like in that period of time. Because in the child span, you can add stuff like logs, which is event like which I added here. So this is for now just a string, but it can also capture like the value of some variables. So yeah, you can go crazy with this, and you can do all sorts of creative things with it. But this is it for traces. Does anyone have any like questions related to this?
Yeah, if you have like any questions, please ask. But then the important thing, if you are seeing the traces or spans for the first time, don't think that it's like a heavy lift or something. It's pretty easy because all of this is automatically created in some like even if you implement OTLP and then do basic things, these will appear automatically in the backends that you do. That's the beauty. You don't need to like spend a lot of time creating this, and don't worry about like, how do I maintain, how do I get the same thing again? Because with OTLP, it's easy. And even if you switch backends and all, and most of them are having rich editors, Jaeger is like an open source project, and it might look a bit okay. You might want to have more flashy things. You go to like, I guess Tempo also has great UI, and it does more analytics. They have something called exemplars, etc., etc. Now, one more thing I want to say is, on the time front, somebody was talking about, I think Krishna, you were specifically mentioning about, this is my line, how do I know really what is going on? Then I think that's where traces come and help than logs, because log is just telling like, it is taking more time to do it, or even if you print time, it took like X amount of time to process this request. Now you're getting inside and literally seeing which area you're taking more time. Imagine in a microservice environment where you have Java for something, Node.js for something, and then you have Go for some area, Python for search. You have multiple programming languages. You are just sending data in between. So that way you would do much better. So that's what I was thinking. So yeah, any questions?
Yeah. So you mentioned about the request starting in front end you mentioned one example, right? The request starting from front end can create a main span, and the request when it reaches the back end, it will be like a child span within that main. Right, and it can add data. So in that case, the main span should be created by front end, and all the child spans that are created by backend should be linked to that main span created by front end, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So how does this linking happen between front end and backend?
Yeah. So I probably should not be doing this, but I'm gonna pull it up anyways. Telemetry protocol. Yes. Yeah. So this is the protobuf definition of OpenTelemetry trace, and this is what it uses to like link spans and stuff. So in a span, you have a trace ID, a span ID, and a parent span ID. So when you create, and the question that you asked is essentially called there's this concept of context propagation in distributed systems. So you can have a look at it in depth later, but the essential idea is that you pass the relevant information through either like headers, body, or something like that in the request that you send from the front end to the backend. So all the traces that are belonging to a same like trace, all the spans that belong to the same trace have the same parent ID, parent span ID. Does that make sense?
Right. So where does the span get created once it reaches the backend? Is it?
Yeah. So like, if you create a span, it will have its own span ID, and the trace ID will be the same as all the spans that belong to the same trace. And then like with the parent span ID, you can like create the hierarchy. Like I do not quite understand your question. Like, where does it create the span as in?
So in Jaeger, you showed the parent span name and the child span name, right?
Yeah.
So when does this detail get stored, get created? If we are tracking the request from the front end.
Let me explain. I'll explain this part. So you have one single application, Java application, which is running, and you integrate this OTLP, and you're collecting traces. In this, it's called, it's Jaeger. It's not Jaeger, because J is pronounced as Y. Maybe it's in Dutch or something like that. So in Jaeger, it shows only one single line, which is a trace and a span. That's it, one single line. because you have only one application. Now, if you have two services in running, like, two Java applications running, one Java application is calling another Java application, then you are just sending from one place to another, right? And imagine if both are using the same library and both are exchanging some context, like data is being exchanged from one app to another app, and you write this tracing thing, you start this trace in the first Java application, and when it is calling the second Java application, then there also OTLP, everything is there, the tracing is there, then automatically it will call the another span will be created. Okay, each span by itself is like a trace. There's so many traces. I mean, like, okay, you could tell, you could think like this. There's so many small spans, right? But you see one trace, like it's flowing like this, right? So if you pick one specific span, you expand it, it'll show all the what code it has executed, that entire thing. Now, what Aditya is saying, like, when you have two applications and it is sending from one place to another place, that while sharing that, there is a context. Some context is being propagated. Like, I'm coming with a span. Now, next place I will create second span. I will not create. If you look at that application, if you go and search about that application, you will only see that and that downward hierarchy. If there is any database after that Java application, you will see that span, right? So that is how it works actually. If you see the high level, it's just like your manager can see all our salaries. I mean, your manager can see all your salaries, but then you can't see backside, but you can see your reportee salary. So it's like more of that way. You think about it, right?
Yeah, but like to just like in one sentence, if I wanted to say, like this line that you have right here, you would do this on the front end, and then you would pass the context to the backend, and in the backend you would have this line, like these two lines.
Okay.
Yeah. So this would be like, let's say, a start of a trace front end, and then this would be the start of a trace span backend, and they belong to the same trace.
So this trace code, the start of the trace, you mentioned start of the trace, right?
Yeah,
Should we have this logic in the front end code or
yeah.
Okay.
You should have it in the front end, because front end is the one who is making the call to the backend.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's in fact, actually, I would put it this way. It's the place where your users usually land. So wherever your users are landing, wherever you want to trace, that place you need to start. If your users are landing on an API, right? Your user is another team, and then that team uses your API to do this. You could do it yourself. If that team wants to do tracing on you as well, what they would ask you to add is like this highlighted code of highlighted lines actually. So they will have the complete picture, and you will have this limited picture actually.
Yeah.
Okay. In that case, if the front end is creating this span, initiating the process of creating this trace main span, so will it immediately store push that information to Fluentd, or it will go to the backend logic and backend will push it to Fluentd?
No. So in this, you see here, right? Like I've done this. Like you need to end the span.
Okay.
And once you end the span, it sends all the data.
So the front end, the browser will contact Fluentd, is it?
Yeah.
To push the span data.
Yeah. Like the exporter that you have defined does that. So if you have that in the front end code, the front end will do that.
So what will be the best practice? Should we have this in front end or?
No, see, I think Div, you are getting it wrong. There is no best practice here. You want to trace it, just add this code. That's it. Okay. And there is nothing like you need to only start in front end. So don't think about it. You start wherever you want to do tracing. So this context propagation and doing a lot of this is like the advanced thing that we are doing here, which you could do like in general terms. If you want to trace, write these lines, it will show up. In fact, actually, the trace IDs collaboration, and also without that also you will be able to get some view. right?
Yeah. So I have this doubt because I was thinking about adding trace once the request reaches the backend, and it will initiate the process of creating the main span. Because if we have this logic in front end, then we have to have the authentication tokens created. Those processes will be there to secure it. So that's why I have this doubt.
So here, when you say front end,
Front end meaning website.
yeah, okay, maybe you will not add data there. All of this is on the server side still. If you ask me, if you're thinking about that is called real user monitoring. There is another type of monitoring called RUM. It's called real user monitoring, where you monitor your people time on the browser. We are not doing that here. Okay, it's still backend. Backend in the sense something is running on your data center, on your cloud.
Okay.
So the front end component will also have, when I say front end, right? Node.js also serves this HTML, Java pages and sends this thing, right? So Node.js is now used, or some server on the server side, which is talking to your browser, right? So your app is like having a client side browser, some work, some logic, and server side logic. And in that server side logic, which is front facing, that we are doing. Now, when we talk about other backend, right, in our terms, like till now we discussed, that backend itself is like, some additional work, like you have some batch processing, you want to do ask some questions to another legacy system, like querying, maybe all of that. So in microservices approach, you can do that.
Understood. Yeah.
So you are not literally shipping any if you can't do that, you should not do that. Like, you should not send Fluentbit URL. That's not needed. Real user monitoring is different. You could also read about it as it's interesting.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Thank you.
Also, like I just wanted to make this clear that the parent span that I'm ending here will be exported as soon as you end this particular span. It will not wait for all the child spans to end before sending it. So these all will be individually sent to the backend, and the
Correct.
backend will recreate those.
Yeah, backend in the sense the Jaeger thing.
Jaeger.
So that is the beauty here, right? Even if you do tracing and traces itself doesn't reach, then what is the use? So that's why what there is like fail fast. Like, as and when things happen, they'll send quickly. And the correlation, or the collation of all of this together will happen at one place. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Aditya, can we also show the metrics one, so that we can only do the debugging and any questions that folks have. Yeah.
Just give me 1 second.
Just one thing, like, is it possible if you can show something by which we can see how like Open Telemetry helps to improve the performance? Any example?
Performance?
Like the performance improvement. Like,
see, Open Telemetry specifically is not aimed at improving any performance. It will also guarantee performance, but if it will tell that it's better, but it's not like, oh, we improve your existing observability by 10x faster or something. It automatically brings that angle, but then it is not aimed to do that sort of a thing. In fact, actually, it will improve because you will remove all the unnecessary hops that you're taking. You don't need to do a lot of hops. It's so easy. So yeah. Yeah, there is nothing like how it improves efficiency. Yes, I don't know why the performance angle. Why did you think that performance improvement is there? And that's where it's not a backend actually, right? It's an agent.
Yep.
Okay.
Does anyone have any other questions, or we can go ahead with metrics? I think should be fine. Yeah. So in metrics, we are also doing a similar thing. We import the libraries, set up basic stuff. This is the exporter we are using is the OTLP metric exporter, which is again similar to the traces one. Just give me 1 second. There's a lot of background noise. I'll close the windows. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, so like I said, similar to traces, we import the exporter, and here we have a meter provider instead of a tracer provider. The job of the meter provider is similar to the tracer provider. So it allows you to, it gives you access to this thing called a metric reader, which in turn lets you create things like counters, histograms, up-down counters, and other instruments that you can use to keep track of any metric. So, for example, if I wanted to count the number of users that have visited my site, I would create a counter, and whenever I get a request, I would increase the count of that. And since the number of users is just going to go up, a simple counter works. But if I had something like whose values can go up or down, let's say like the number of active users, then I would need an up-down counter for it. So yeah, essentially like you just create the meter provider, you get the meter from it, and you start creating any instrument that you might need from it. And similar to the tracing demo, every second in this case, we are adding values to the counter and shipping it to Fluentbit. And to see it in the UI, I can go to Grafana again and create a new dashboard. Let's say add visualization. And in this case, my data source will be Prometheus. And the value that I am interested in this time is the up-down counter. And let's say instance is Fluentbit and run queries. So this shows me the value of that counter over time. The value of the counter over time. And request is the other incremental counter that we had, and this is also you can see that here as well. So you can create a panel for that as well. And let's say like let's limit this to the last 15 minutes, so you can see that this is correctly being updated. So you can save the dashboard, counter, let's save it, and that should be it for this thing. Does anyone have any questions regarding this?
So we are essentially creating metrics here in the app, but also you generally, when you install any of these agents, right, OTLP or any Fluentbit, right? So what happens is it becomes very easy. I mean, every system has some basic things like disk available, how many CPUs, just like how you see in the processor, what do you call that, process explorer or activity monitor on all of these laptops, right? You see PIDs and all those are also metrics, and you could collect that by default. That you don't need to, but you have some special metric that you want to export, custom metric, that can be done like this. That's the catch here. I hope that made sense. Any questions?
So the activity monitor, the metric similar to activity monitor, if we have to capture that for some scenario.
Correct. You can.
What we have to do?
So here we are doing custom metric. There you enable in the Fluentbit systemd plugin. I mean the input plugin, and then automatically scrapes the metrics. And through OTLP, it makes it available through OTLP, and your OTel backends can automatically do it. That's what the catch here, right? Like we are doing custom stuff, advanced stuff today in the workshop. But normal thing, it's very easy. I'll share that link, and then you use Fluentbit, enable that, bingo, you will have the data. That's it. There is no need to touch the code. But this is a custom way to do it. Like people do Prometheus custom metrics as well, right? So this is one way to look at it.
So we have to enable that in Fluentbit.
Yeah, Fluentbit.
And in case of like a Kubernetes infrastructure, my application will be as a container in a pod, and Fluentbit will be a sidecar, is it?
Yeah, Fluentbit will be a sidecar.
So in that case, how will Fluentbit monitor the resource consumption of my container? Because both are two different pods. So it has the logic to fetch those details, is it?
Fluentbit, by default, Fluentbit can be shipped, Fluentd is shipped already, or you can also similar way Fluentd also, Fluentbit also shipped as under the Kubernetes namespace. So the main namespace, and then you have, it's completely a different namespace that you usually deploy. The main system namespace is not given access to anybody. And even your apps are dying, your apps are like doing that monitoring is completely done from a different area altogether.
Okay.
Unless your node crashes and your node is like somebody pulled the power plug, or like, you know, something happens through that node, right? Node itself, your when under your Kubernetes cluster is there, it will still work. Even then, I think there are various methods and ways that you could ensure that if something is going down, you could use the metadata to see what's gone wrong, and all of that can be done.
You mean like Fluentd is a daemon set?
Yes, it's a daemon set. Exactly. It's not a sidecar. You run it as yeah.
Okay. And this is right now we are discussing about metrics. Previously we discussed about traces.
Correct.
The data source for that is what I missed it.
Data source is Jaeger. I mean, Jaeger is the place where it is being stored. It's not in Grafana. We did not visualize it in Grafana. For Grafana, they have a different backend. It's called Tempo. That's where it's called LGTM. In L is Loki, G is Grafana, T is Tempo, and M is Mimir.
So for traces, data source is Jaeger, is it?
Yeah, the Jaeger is an open source project like Tempo as well. Tempo is more Grafana driven. Jaeger is CNCF project. That's why we were using this. But you could also send the same traces to Tempo as well.
Yeah.
Okay. So in case of traces, Jaeger is a data source and it also has a UI.
Yes, exactly. It's the place where it holds the data.
So like Jaeger is just for visualization.
Visualization.
Yeah. It stores the data and visualizes it. But the traces are being generated by the OTel application.
Yeah, that's there. But he's asking where these traces are stored. So it's in the Jaeger container, in the Jaeger container that you have. In Tempo is like another storage engine where traces are stored. It also has a UI, which is Grafana.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
So technically, we are done with both the demos. If you have any questions, we are happy to answer. The entire this thing is there, and it's an open source repo. You could always raise issues, ask questions anytime. But let us know if you have any questions. We're happy to help. Krishna, I think you were saying something, right, in the past. Yeah.
No, I mean, this demo, I was trying. I'm not able to find that metrics that you were given underscore test something up and down. Actually, I'm not finding.
Okay. Can you share your screen?
Yeah.
We can check and see if we could debug.
Yeah. 1 second.
Anyone else is trying the demo? Like you could ask. I think it's simple Docker Compose up, and then you will be able to do it. Yeah.
Okay. So
are you running? Did you do the Docker Compose up?
Yes, it's running here.
on the which branch is it? Because I don't know if you
This is,
can
I
you
think,
get
this
branch
is the master actually.
in main. Okay,
Main
fine.
only.
Yeah.
So means one issue is there, but this this demo app is exited actually.
Now it should be working, right? Can you check that one? Docker ps-a. Because if it's in a different branch altogether. Yeah, then I think then it is not working. The metrics will not come. So
Okay,
you need to like go to the Docker compose and then
Okay.
app is started like yeah, down and then try to do recreate it. Yeah.
Or just check the logs for the container, I guess.
Yeah, we'll restart and check it once.
Okay.
I think it's not done for a while.
Okay, so I will do up now again.
Yeah, up and then you do Docker and on the other window Docker ps-a. Yeah, I think it is doing right now. Yeah, anyway. Yeah, Docker ps-a. Yeah,
Right.
it says exited, right? You could
Mhm.
Docker logs and that first 4 digits or something. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Arvind, it might be because Windows.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
It's
I
for-
have no idea.
it should not be about Windows, still it should run, but I think maybe it is invoking. Let me check this one.
Uh,
Okay.
yeah, I have no idea. Like it's Docker, so platform shouldn't matter. But
Yes, but I
I-
think there's some catch here, like Windows might have been doing some.
yeah,
Okay.
I've never worked with Docker on Windows.
Okay,
Yeah.
you people are doing on the Linux machine? Okay.
Yeah, it's a Mac, so
Okay. Okay, fine. So I will unshare.
yeah, you could stop share. I'll just see if there is any solution. So it's about the script ending, it seems.
That is trying to run that run.sh file.
Yeah, correct. That ending has a specific way which Windows will not recognize because it's DOS. Windows runs in a DOS specific
Yeah,
way.
yeah, correct.
So you need to.
I think that it's a Linux utility or something needed actually inside the Docker.
Yeah, DOS to Unix actually you need to do. But let me find out. I think it's not a big deal. You should first find it.
Or you could just replace that like command with like node metrics.js and node trace.js, tracing.js. Like you don't need to run both of them together. Like do one by one.
Where is that run.sh will come under the app? Okay.
So like in Docker file,
Okay.
like in app/Docker file, there will be like on the last line, there will be like cmd run.sh or something.
Okay, let me share actually. I am not clear. Okay, which one you are telling? On this run.sh you are telling?
No. Docker file. Docker file.
Okay.
The app/Docker file. Yeah. And that's like just replace the run.sh thing in the last line.
Okay.
Like replace that in thing. No, not the entire thing, just the quotes. The one in quotes, like /run.sh.
Okay, you want me to remove this thing?
No, not that part.
Okay.
I want you to replace /run.sh.
So there is a way that you could do this one, and I'm happy to help. It's very easy, but you can do this and give it a try. If not, we can try
Sure.
again. Yeah.
Yeah, just do node space metrics.js.
Where I have to do that one you're telling? Nodes.
In the codes, in the run.sh codes.
Okay. Nodes.
Remove run.sh.
Node metrics.js.
You wrote nodes, just write node. Yeah.
Node. Okay. Okay. After that, what telling?
Metrics.js.
Okay.
Metrics.
Okay.
Yeah. And now you can try.
Okay.
It works. It works.
We'll stop it actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, this time you can do -d. I think we forgot.
Okay. No, it's not helping actually. Okay, it's never going down.
Can you check the logs once? Okay, so it's because like Git automatically adds some carriage returns whenever it is doing that.
Okay.
If you want, what you could do is like
You need to build again, like
yeah.
same command but -- build.
Oh, here you are telling?
Yeah, like -- build.
I will down first, then I will correct, no?
Yeah, it's fine either way, but yeah.
Okay, okay. Is it fine?
Yeah. Can you hear it? Right? It takes
Okay.
We have got some intros from folks, but then not everybody has shared. But then it would be great to know you all. So yeah.
Yeah, it's came up now. Looks like, yeah. Yeah, it's coming up.
Okay, good. Then you can try it out.
Yeah. Like you can try metrics by this, and if you want to try traces, then replace like metrics.js with tracing.js in the Docker file.
Oh, that in the Docker file you're telling.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, now this is the metrics one, so I can go to. Okay, you got it. Okay, what you mean? Okay.
Yeah.
I will create a connex. Okay, I think it's already there. Your connection means it will.
Correct. Prometheus is there.
Okay.
You can also do builder dashboard directly. Yeah. Add the relation. Yeah.
What I have to select? That underscore TP something you're telling me.
And just up down counter.
Yeah. Either of those.
Right. Just
okay. Scheme. Okay. Okay.
Job. Demo. Run queries. It's up.
Oh, yeah, it's coming. Actually.
You can put last 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's it.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Excel. Okay. Yes. Yeah. Okay. I will change the other event. Yeah. Metrics to
Tracing, and then you need to go to like Jaeger.
Okay. So here you are telling to change to trace.js actually. Tracing.js. Okay.
Yeah, it's there in the code. That's why the name that you're giving. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Okay, sure. I got it. Okay, thank you.
So I will also share the code if you want to do it together in the main repo. Git is doing all these things. So configure Git to not to convert your carriage returns. It's like delete this repo and add you to your Git config. Run this command like git config global core.crlf, that is like carriage return that's adding. So you add this line, it's a command, actually execute it, and then you clone it again, everything works. It's because that you're running a Linux container on a Windows system.
Okay.
So DOS will not recognize some characters actually.
Okay. So you mean that I will do the compose down and clean up again the build, do the build actually? Okay.
Yeah, exactly. You clean up in the sense you delete the code repo, whatever you have git cloned. It's problem with the.
Oh, okay. So, okay. To pull the clone, do the reclone actually again.
Exactly. You need to delete this code and reclone. I mean, git clone the repo actually.
Okay, got it. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Now that the demos are complete, I'll share one last time the presentation, and then we could go from there. And
One quick question.
sure.
In the metrics section, we have this requests label, right?
Okay.
So the requests in the Grafana dashboard, I can see there are it shows like 55,000, 60,000. The line chart goes till 55,000, 60,000, and it keeps on increasing. Why is that? What kind of program we written in
So-
that metrics.js?
So in metrics.js, there is a counter, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So we are just incrementing that value.
So in that case, does this mean that like 60,000 requests are getting triggered?
No. Like it's just a mock value. So I think
Like
it's just a value that you added, right? You keep incrementing that value. That's why it is going.
Yeah. Keep
okay.
into it.
Okay, this is just a number.
Yeah, number. That's
Number.
it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The counter. That's it.
I thought it's like HTTP request.
No, you could also monitor that. That's a different thing.
Okay.
on it.
Yeah. Thank you.
No problem. So I'm just going to quickly conclude the session. So these, I think, while we keep talking about OTel, everything, Fluentbit and everything, I mean, it might still be confusing in the Go. We shared a lot. 3 hours is not enough. And also we are doing virtually. That doesn't satisfy a lot of needs. If you want to know more, these are QR codes. You could take a screenshot, scan it from your phone, whatever it is. What is OpenTelemetry and OpenTelemetry Fluentbit guide, or Fluentbit Slack. If you want to join Fluentbit Slack, it's very popular. We have like some 25,000 people on the Slack. So we run the Slack, and then you can talk to us, ask questions, do more. Fluentbit is deployed in so many big organizations. You might very well be using Fluentbit without knowingly, like with the services that you interact, like when you make a payment transaction, when you call a Uber, right? A lot of these things that you do, it's already Fluentbit is in the pipe. So yeah, come join the community. Happy to help and do more. Yeah. Cool. That's it from my side. Aditya, you want to add anything?
Sorry, I was muted. But yeah, no, that's it from me. Like, nice talking to you all. Like, thanks for joining on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, exactly. So any questions?
Yeah, thank you all. Thanks. Thank you, both of you, to say, yeah, for me it's a learning only and new things also for me. But thanks for helping, also resolving issues also. Thanks.
Sure. Krishna Dev, thank you for active participation.
Thank you.
You take care. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.